Many people wonder if you can grow mushrooms outdoors in your garden, and you can. In this video, I'm going to show you a nice easy way to do it with an outdoor mushroom bed. Now, as we get started on this, it's worth mentioning that you can also grow mushrooms in your garden on logs, and we'll make a different video on that in the future. Today though, we're going to be focusing on how to grow on wood chips, and we're going to be growing the King Stropharia mushroom, sometimes also known as the garden giant or the wine cap. It's a lovely mushroom and it grows really well on wood chip beds. So you'll see that we've created a raised garden bed here, and we're going to line the bottom of that with a layer of cardboard. And you can do this either in a raised bed like we've got here, or you can also find a spot underneath a tree or bushes that you have in your garden. Some people also sometimes do it underneath where they've got plants growing. It doesn't really matter too much. The basic idea is you need an area that you can fill with wood chip and where you can let the mushrooms grow. And ideally you want it somewhere where they're not going to dry out too much. We'll come back to that in just a minute. So with this bed here, we're laying the first layer of wood chip down underneath. And you can use all sorts of shredded wood chip or garden mulch for that. Then on top of that, we're going to be layering it up almost like a lasagna. We're going to be, at the moment, we're mixing here the layer of mushroom spawn, the King Stropharia spawn. We're doing around about half of the spawn now as the bottom layer, and on top of that we'll have another layer of wood chip going down after that. The idea is to sort of sandwich the spawn in between layers of wood chip, so that the spawn can then grow across it over the coming months, and it uses that as its food to then produce the mushrooms. So we place the second layer of wood chip on top of that, followed by another layer of spawn, spreading it out evenly across the surface of the bed. We've used here around about 3 kilograms of King Stropharia spawn, and our raised bed here is around about 4 meters squared. So on top of that second layer of spawn, we put a third layer of wood chip, spread that around nicely all over the bed. And once it's fully covered, we're going to top the whole thing off with a layer of straw. Now the idea of the straw is to act a little bit like a mulch. It's going to stop the bed underneath from drying out too much, and it will help to conserve any water that rains down into it. It also provides a little bit of warmth over the colder months. So now that we've got that finished with a layer of straw on the top, we're going to give the whole bed a really good soak-in of water, just to make sure that as we've created it, it's got plenty of moisture in there for the first few weeks of growth. We're going to keep watering this over the weeks and months to come. Basically, the thing that will go wrong with a garden bed is it could dry out, and so the main thing you need to do is to make sure it always has enough moisture to allow that mycelium underneath the wood chip to grow and feed. And so to help with that, we're also going to top our bed with a layer of shade netting. Now if you're underneath a big tree or wooded area, you don't really need to do this, but because this bed is quite exposed, we've added an extra layer of shade netting at the end, and now our bed is complete. So to look after this bed from here on in, we're just soaking it with water at least once a week. Obviously if it's raining, you don't need to do that. But basically you want to just keep on watering it regularly to make sure that it doesn't dry out. So with this bed, it took 2 months before we dug back into it, and after 2 months you could see signs of life already. You see those white filaments of growth there growing through the bed. That's the mycelium of the spawn that's come alive, eating its way through the wood chip and the straw. And after 2 months we could see already plenty of activity. 6 months after planting, and we began to see the mushrooms appear. So here you can see them coming up. This was in September. We planted the bed in March, and the mushrooms are producing their first crop coming into September there, and we were there to pick them and harvest them just about on time. The one thing you want to make sure of with garden giants is to harvest them before they get too big. Once the cap opens up too wide, you'll find it starts to disintegrate quite quickly, and all sorts of insects and bugs like to get in there. So if you get them nice and young like this is a pristine state. These mushrooms are absolutely delicious. You can cook them up and enjoy them in a way that you would with many other types of mushrooms. To keep a bed like this going, you basically just need to feed it with new material every year. So just add additional layers of wood chip every year in the spring, and you'll continue to get mushrooms for years to come. As you can see, it's a really simple method, a way of growing mushrooms at home in a garden bed, all you need is the wood chip, the spawn, a place to do it, and a way to make sure that the bed doesn't dry out. And then you just let the mycelium do the work. It wants to feed off of wood chips, give it the right conditions, and it will do so. And there you go, you can produce mushrooms for yourself in your garden. Obviously, before you go ahead and eat the mushrooms that you grow in your garden, do a double check and identify them, make sure you've got the right variety that you've grown. And it's worth pointing out you can do the same method with a few other varieties of mushrooms as well. You can also grow oyster mushrooms like this, you can grow elm oyster mushrooms like this, King Stropharia. Those are the most common varieties. Have a little look on the internet, find some spawn, get some wood chip in and give it a go. I really hope you found this video useful and it's inspired you to have a go, grow your own mushrooms at home. Do keep in touch, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and we'll see you next time.